Ice house coach.
Okay, I just pinned everybody who's on the panel. Let me know if I forgot anybody. But thanks for coming to the Prism Scholarship Lessons Learned with our inaugural class. Obviously, this is very important to me because I was not supported to have professional development at a previous position, and I wasn't really encouraged to try to advance my career in any way. And so I feel very grateful to have the opportunity to work with all of these people who have applied and have been awarded the scholarship and hear their experiences about what they're going through, what their struggles are. So for anybody who doesn't know, the Prism Scholarship was created to support underrepresented people in the AV, specifically the higher ed AV industry. And it provides them the opportunity to have a mentor with HETMA, a trip to InfoComm, CTS study course, and then the CTS test fees covered for one try at the test. But I'm sure that's all our applicants, our recipients will need is one attempt. But we'll hear more from them. So I lost my notes on what I'm saying next. So that's what the Prism Scholarship is. We're going to go around and I'll let everybody introduce themselves. Natalie, do you want to start?
Sure. I was just in the last panel, so I'm here again. Hi, Natalie Gillespie. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a senior AV support specialist at Northwestern University. Been there for a very long time, but haven't really done much professional development all of that time. So this has really been a huge opportunity. Thank you.
Awesome. Anne, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Ann Kelly from Damon University. My full title is Associate Director of Technology Services. And with changing of how we're a small college, so we have the flexibility of being rebranded from academic affairs into IT, and it was very much trial by fire. But when we had our new CIO come in, she was like, why are we not part of Avixa? Why don't you have your CTS? And it was at the time it wasn't encouraged because they said, oh, you don't need it because we're small. Yeah, and it's proven to be completely opposite. So having this opportunity of just the reference material of people study this or don't worry about that, or that has been just epic for me because what's really interesting, and when I was listening to the women's panel, so much of what I was doing before, I've had those same experiences being told in an interview you were only here because you were close to the requirements and you were the only woman that applied, and what that means. But my CIO here is Malaine Kenyon, and she's been absolutely supportive of going after this and the scholarship, and very supportive of continuing to get it.
Great, we're happy to have you. Dustin, do you want to go?
I'm Dustin Myers. I'm the AV manager of technology support and AV systems. We recently integrated all of our AV side to IT and merged in one big department, which really isn't big. We're a small community college, so department of about 10 people.
Thanks for being here. Britt?
I'm Britt Yenser, Director of Event Technology at Moravian University. I've been in that role for around 6 years. Moravian is a small institution, private in Northeast PA.
Kamisha?
Hi, I'm Kamisha, and I'm audiovisual technician at Florida International University. I've been at the university for almost 2 years now. I've been in AV almost 10.
And Greg, our singular mentor.
Well, thanks, Annie. Glad to be here. Very glad to be here and be part of this program. It's been a very, well, we'll talk about my experience with Prism here in a little while, but I'm the Senior AV Design Engineer, at University of Colorado Boulder, part of the Learning Spaces Technology team, and been fortunate over the years to have gotten a CTSD, CTSI, so I was happy to share the knowledge and be part of this group. So look forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you all for joining. And I did want to say the previous panel was amazing, and I think it's a great lead in to our discussion. And I want to also point out that the Prism Scholarship is not just for the people who are underrepresented in terms of like how they look or what gender they are, but it's also to support the diversity of other things that maybe are not as quite as visible. So just if you're wondering if you are an applicant or if you qualify for the scholarship, then please just apply. And we ask that you identify why you think you are underrepresented, but we're not really making judgments about whether you are underrepresented, as long as you're explaining to us why you're underrepresented. So that kind of leads me into the application for the Prism Scholarship. Were there any hurdles for the applicants who did apply, who are the recipients this year, that you'd like to talk about, or any things that made you second guess applying?
Go ahead, Misha.
Oh, there wasn't really any hurdles for me. I just didn't know about it. Alicia told me about it because I was in higher ed, and I was just like, really? So I don't see it wasn't really a hurdle. It was just a lack of not knowing. So I didn't know anything about it until someone told me about it to look into it. So
I think for me, it was the actual process of writing out those things. You sort of, those questions, they were like, they were heavy for someone. I've been in this business for 25 years. And you sort of like, oh, I don't want to sound so angry. I don't want to seem so mad about like my work up until now. It's just like, these are experiences that you either have or just sort of like swallow and move on with. Especially, you know, it's in my 9 times out of 10, I'm still the only woman in the room. So, you know, you sort of like, how do I represent that I love being in this field, and yet, you know, you sort of like start writing about, you know, something that happened 15 years ago, and you sort of like, what did I learn from that? It's like, don't be how to express that appropriately instead of just being so horribly angry. So that was picking my words. And also, like, for me, and I still joke about it, it's like I only had 500 words to fill in, and I was very, very astute to that 500 words. I could have gone 2,000 for one of the answers. So, but that's just me because I'm wordy. So you can mute me at any time if I start rambling. So
Maybe you should contribute to that article. Write your own article. We'll all write one.
To kind of echo a little bit what Anne is saying, but almost in the opposite direction. So I don't know if you've read or watched the movie The Perks of Being a Wallflower, but there is a quote in it: "We accept the love we think we deserve."
Mm-hmm.
And for me, when I was told by my mentor and friend, apply for this scholarship, I was so averse to it because I just thought, like, I don't deserve it. Like I've been beaten down so much over the years in various ways that I was like, why even bother? And he had to like kindly bully me into doing it. And so that was my hurdle.
I agree. That was mine too, the imposter syndrome, not thinking that I actually deserved it. I had a great support staff though here at our institution that really pushed me in that direction.
Yeah, I think even going into this next round, we're still kind of struggling to, last year it took some effort to find people to apply. And this year we're kind of seeing the same pattern. And I do wonder if a lot of that is that people think that they just aren't the candidate that we're looking for. But I think what we're trying to say is that you are, right? Like if you're thinking that you might be, then you probably are the candidate. I love what you said, Britt, about the love and the deserve. I don't know the words exactly, but it was great. Yeah. Any other comments about the application?
I want to echo what everybody else has said so far, knowing about it, trying not to be too righteously angry or feeling like I didn't want to take this opportunity away from other people who might be more deserving. I wouldn't have applied if I had not heard that they were really short on applicants. And I figured, well, if there are more deserving people, then they will bump to the front of the line, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, and the people who are deciding who is awarded the scholarship are the people on this panel, the people who are the mentors, the mentees. So I don't think we need to worry about the people who might be more deserving, because everybody who's applying is very deserving of the scholarship. But we can't affect that change if people aren't even applying. So then I think after the application process, everybody was matched with a HETMA volunteer who has taken the CTS test, and there was a mentorship program. I'll use the term program loosely. It was kind of up to the mentor and the mentee to determine what kind of schedule and how that relationship looked. And so I'm hoping that some people feel comfortable talking about the relationship that they've had and how it might have helped along the way.
I guess I'll go. Honestly, I have not. I don't even know who my mentor is. We met, we connected one time and we were both busy at the time and we never really circled back. But I think it was, in my perspective, I think it's okay because I do have upper management that has taken a CTS. So we've communicated a lot when it comes to the test and what's on it, or if I have any, if we're in the middle of work and we, and I'm confused about something that I know that's on the test, like networking, that thing is like, I'm no good at networking at all. So I've constantly come to him and like, hey, I got a question about this. And he was like, that's a good question. You know, let's do it in a CTS form, or a question that will be most likely on a CTS form. So for me, as a part, I guess a mentor, I didn't really experience that because of the simple fact that we only experienced each other one time, and that was really it. And we were both busy, so we didn't circle back to each other. But like I said, it's okay. And also too, I do lean on my other recipients. Like me and Britt has a total study session before the actual study session group, CTS study group that we do. So, which is awesome that we do. So, I mean, I think for me, it's not so much the mentor, it's just the support. And we do have, and that the support is there within, you know, the recipients of and things like that. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
from my end, we've both been dealing with our own natural disasters. So we've just been quiet recently, the last 6-7 weeks. But that's just because our duty calls to what's been going on here. But last fall, we checked in a handful of times. And it's mostly me. I am horribly dyslexic, and when you are, when you absorb information, you're not sure if you're seeing it correctly, especially when we start using a lot of letters or having to know formulas. So I have to just confirm with myself I'm reading it appropriately and then spitting it back out the way it should be. So I joke with him that he's gonna I'm gonna owe him something. He's gonna May and June with me, I'm gonna be probably a wreck, just because like it's that confidence issue that I know I'm gonna have closer to the event. I'm like really good now. My exams have been really great. The testing exams have been fine, but it's like I know I'm gonna be a basket case. And he's gonna need prayers just to handle me later on. So, but we have to joke about going into that, because that will be my biggest fear of the exam itself is it all gonna get all alphabet soup up here when I need it the most, and taking it and maybe failing it the first time. I don't want to, but it could be my result, just because of I will be Monday night. We're all going to be together, right? Monday night. So that'd be great. I think it'll be fun, but that's been our experience now. It's timing is what it is with them, but we know we're going to get back to that. Yeah, ice storms and disasters. Good times.
Does anyone else want to talk about the mentorship?
Yeah, I'll say that for me, I have historically felt sort of uncomfortable just in this AV space in general, because I do not often see people who look like me as I look around. And so I kind of felt myself always trying to prove myself, like I belong here, I belong here. And in trying to prove that, I was really stopping my own growth, because it became like, I can't ask a question because that's going to reveal that I don't know the answer. And then that proves I don't belong here. And then you start to just hit that downward spiral where you're just completely stopping yourself from getting better. And so when I was paired with a mentor, it was like, I'm finally free to ask my questions, because I know that we're already on this even playing ground. Like I know that this person respects me, and I know that this person wants to help me, and they're not going to judge me when I'm like, can you explain this formula, or can you look at this diagram with me? Like I'm just free to ask whatever I want. And that's been really amazing.
That sounds awesome. I'm nervous about mentor relationships too, because involves a great deal of vulnerability and trusting that somebody's not going to judge you. I did get to meet with my mentor once. I had specific questions about how to approach hiring students who may not have the best English skills for a very communication heavy position, even though they might have really good technical skills. And she pointed out that we do a lot of, we serve a very international community as well. So their language skills can actually turn out to be a plus in other languages. So I still have yet to figure out how to turn that around and sort of publicize that we can answer AV questions in Turkish or Somali or whatever. But it did help me look at that in a different way. And I mean, I appreciate that they can speak multiple languages. How can I make them, how can I work with them to be more intelligible in English? Is still a question here. So we're still working on that.
I might throw in here at this point as the mentor representative here today. I found the process and the experience very rewarding from my perspective. And the reason I want to participate in this is to encourage other potential mentors out there, because I think one of the things I learned a long time ago, working in higher ed specifically, was that, you know, if you're surrounded by people that look like you, you're only going to get the perspectives that look like you. And when you're trying to design systems and work with AV that need to serve everyone, you need to have multiple input. And so as an industry, I've felt over the years, and that's why I've always wanted to participate and help in this regard and be a champion, to be a supporter, that we need to have this diversity that this program is going to bring to us. And so by delving back into this and assisting in this regard and being a mentor, it's been a very rewarding process. Additionally, you know, working in higher ed, I don't always get to do different aspects that in the commercial side that you might on a regular basis. So in helping someone else prepare for the CTS exam, I had to stretch back into my textbooks a little bit every now and then, pull down my PMP guide when talking about project management and so on, and you know, kind of stretch a little bit and you know, kind of remember a few things you hadn't thought of in a while. So it's just a great opportunity, I think, for those you know, in our next round that might have thought about it the first time but didn't actually step up. I encourage you to step up. I found it very rewarding. And I think that ironically, the couple of y'all have mentioned the trust factor and vulnerability. It kind of goes both ways, because it's a little bit, you know, meeting someone new that you've never met before and that you don't know and that doesn't live near you, and it's you know, what you share and how often and so on. It's a little bit both ways too. So just so you know, it's you know, it's good though. I think it's good for folks to expand the horizons and get to meet new people and you know, actually do some good in the world. So that's my 2 cents from a mentor's perspective.
Yeah, thanks for that perspective. It's interesting. I wonder if there would ever be room to get like RU certification or RU credits for people who are playing that mentor role for people in the industry, because it might actually be more beneficial than sitting and watching a webinar training, because it's that active kind of learning and recalling and coaching someone else. That would be something that I can look into.
Yeah, I'd be interested. Well, I was looking into the participant list to see if Joey was still here, and she's not, so that maybe she could take it back to a Vixen.
The best way to know something is to teach it.
And Kamisha, I appreciated your comments too about the mentorship. So I touched on it a little bit, but I'll talk a little more about, in the beginning, we partnered everyone and we sent introductory emails to the mentors and the mentees to introduce them. And then we kind of left it up to the recipients and the mentors to reach out to each other and set up a schedule for how often they would meet. In addition to the personal schedules that they came up with, we have been meeting quarterly and touching base, but not everybody comes because everybody's schedules are very busy. And so it has been, I would say, a bit of a struggle to make sure that everybody is engaged in the program and that everybody's getting the maximum benefit out of it. Does anybody have any thoughts on how we could improve that engagement for the next class?
Honestly, probably just more like a calendar of we all know we're crazy busy. This is a, you know, semester. You know, I cannot wait for spring break to happen kind of situation. But yeah, we meet quarterly. Maybe, you know, it's one of those, not to beat a dead horse, but maybe just have more of those, you know, like, oh, well, March 1st, we have this one, but for those who can't make it, let's do March 10th. You know, just to have that window open and, you know, it just, even if it's 3 participants and, you know, 1 leader, or, you know, you might miss the entire board of people, but we get those and we could recap what, you know, group A was able to hit up. And then it just because we're all busy. just is the nature of the business. And even my December went to somewhere in a handbasket just because of the unforeseeables. But it sometimes when you miss that one quarterly, it feels like it hurts. It feels like you're almost disappointing your group. But the other thing too is we do work independently, getting all those things done by those deadlines. So I'm a deadline driven person. I love having those deadlines. By this, we need to have these done and have these ready. So we might have those ready and just have to miss a meeting. But it is. We've all seen each other more than once, and I had to miss the last one, and I actually felt bad. But you did post a recap, so that was nice.
One of the suggestions I was going to make, Annie, after the fact was to maybe looking at the syllabus, if you will, for the educational track, and that at the quarterlies, we could actually dedicate, possibly, just a suggestion, dedicate some time during that session to looking forward to the next track and kind of going into not deep dive detail, like actual educational detail, but kind of breaking it down and giving some perspective and having an opportunity to for the mentees to have ask questions about that track and where they might go for additional resources beyond just, for instance, the CTS guidebook. Like for instance, one of the things I suggested to my mentee was the PMP guide when looking at the project management section. And I think maybe had we introduced that a little sooner, that might have been a good resource and something I could have shared out and sent out. And so other things like that at those quarterlies where we actually dedicate, maybe instead of just a 1 hour, maybe it's a 2 hour, and like there's a little time for just general stuff, but then have an actual educational, component, which could be recorded, in the event that, say, someone's busy and can't make it, they could watch it and catch that question and answer as well as whatever was put out about the next sections. So.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. I haven't even studied for the CTS, so I welcome that kind of feedback because those are things that I'm not thinking about. So that's awesome. Thank you.
I like that the HETMA site has been reorganized somewhat so that we have sort of a Prism mentor-mentee area. We can do a little bit more asynchronous meeting up and chatting and checking in. Because synchronous stuff is difficult.
Yeah.
In addition to the mentoring schedule that we had and the meetings, we also, just to give a little background to everybody who's listening in, on our Mighty Network channel, we have kind of a Canvas course, if you will, of what a timeline for breaking up all of the content for the CTS test. And so it's kind of measured throughout the year instead of them just deciding what kind of pace that they're working at to get through the content. And speaking of the content, I know Anne mentioned how they're busy, and how do the recipients and the mentors find time to meet, find time to look at the study guide? How do you break up the content? Because it's such a wealth of information. Does anybody have any insight into how they're managing their time for that?
Well, for me, I go basically how my week is. If I know that I have a busy week, I'm a morning person. So I usually, read a chapter in the mornings because I know I have a busy schedule that day and things like that. So I'll majority study, in the mornings if I know I have a busy week or busy day. And then I also follow the CTS study group that the women from Avixa has. So I also do that study group, and then I have that hour before to study with Britt, and basically just reading that chapter. And like Britt said before, in order for me to learn something, I have to teach it to somebody else. That's how I learn. That's how I grasp that concept, or I grasp That's how, I learn things. So, we'll read a chapter and we'll talk it through. And if it was like, okay, that doesn't make sense. And then Britta say her idea of how that goes, and it's like, oh, okay, that makes more sense. So, I think just breaking down, certain things like certain chapters, because like I said, I'm going by what the CTS study group goes by, and have the homework and looking at YouTube videos. The courses on the Avixa website is great also. Like, I appreciate that. And also, the HETMA inside the Canva too, that's definitely helpful, because having different ways to study, because sometimes the book covers so much and then it's not so in depth. But if I go to the like the project manager one, it goes into depth, the book goes into depth, but the project manager that's on the actual HITMA, the mighty one, it goes definitely more into depth than the book does. So I'm like, okay, it gives me like different perspective, and it gives you more into depth, so it makes me understand more. So I think the study content is right, it's there, it's nail on the head for me, as personally, but it's great. I like it.
If I can ask a question, how have the study questions at the chapters in the book as well as the online, have they been beneficial to you all?
I'll say some of them have been confusing to. Okay, so the textbook, we all know, has a lot of depth of information, and then like 10 little questions of these huge chapters. It's like, where are they pulling their information from? And yet you pull out the study guide, and the study guide kind of isolates it differently, and the way they word their questions is not so much rabbit hole. There's always the definitive, oh, I know this answer. Or what I call it, I do a Jeopardy to myself, spit out the 3 words that you want to answer with right away, and then find in your multiple choice where that fits best. Because it's, for me, it's always trying to decipher, of the 5 multiple choice. Yeah, there's the 3 absolutely obvious, but then I'm always a rabbit hole person going, yeah, well, this one also could work. This one could work too. But, and my mentor has been, just remember the way they phrase it, because that's where the answer has to be. And when for someone like me, who's been in the industry for so long, we always have our own ways of describing those words, and now it's the textbook meanings and the textbook answers, and you kind of go, oh, great, I'm gonna get, it was said, the fear of failure. I'm gonna find the absolute wrong answer, and how do you learn the way Avixa and the exam is written? You learn that language, and for me, it's like, once I could actually do that, it's been a lot easier. If any of that makes sense for pedagogy people going, what?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I found, having sat through 3 of these exam sessions over the years here, that exactly that, how would Avixa answer this question, is how I always want to pose it, because you can typically delineate at least 2, and usually even a 3rd. But that's one of the best. I took one of the, and for what it's worth, I was going to recommend, I've recommended my mentee that the 3-day prep, if you're able to go down for the long weekend before, do the 3-day prep. They actually will spend a lot of time on the test taking specifically, which for me really alleviated a lot of my comfort level in the test taking. Not so much the knowledge, but just the comfort level in the test itself became very second nature, and was able to, I didn't fly through it, don't get me wrong, because obviously it's a long test, but a lot of questions, but you're able to pace yourself in such a way that it wasn't, if you had to like, I'm going to think on that one and just move on and not worry about it, you knew you could always go back to it. So yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely be during the exam, my scribble sheets are probably going to be well paced out. Words, just random words all over. The index answer. I'm sorry in the chats. Yes, Mr. Pedersen.
So one thing I want to ask is, how do we promote this wider and get more people to know about this and apply for this. I'm sorry to change the conversation, but how do we promote membership? And I mean, cold emailing, cold calling only goes so far.
Well, I think if I can, one of the things I'm planning to promote this next year is the through the newly created education committee is just this, in that it's an opportunity beyond just your average lunch and learns and so on. This is a more formal opportunity for those that wish to participate. But the other thing I think is that HETMA itself, the growth, we have, I think it's nearly 400 participants signed up for this conference. And although I'm only seeing 28 actually signed up or that are participating in this particular breakout session, the exposure of this opportunity is now out to over 400, where I don't know that it was even half that much a year ago. So I think that in and of itself, but I think we all, both the mentors that have been involved this past year and then you all as mentees will be the champions. And I think even Annie, was there an opportunity at InfoComm as a general session, not just specifically a HETMA breakout, but are we able to take this conversation to Orlando?
I think that we're working on some details, but we're hoping to have a HETMA panel at InfoComm. And I think last year, a lot of the cold emails and cold calling to people mentioning HETMA and also the Prism scholarship, I think that helped to get a couple extra applicants. And so I'm hoping to do that again, and maybe this time focusing on some more of the community colleges in my area, because I really focused on my local, like a 200-mile radius kind of. Just because otherwise it would be overwhelming, right? So I'll be doing that again, and I think I've heard that Natalie has some ideas about reaching out to community colleges or also like tribal communities.
Yeah, I've been emailing and reaching out over LinkedIn to whoever I can dig up on the university or college websites for tribal universities, people in at least self-identified underserved communities. But if we can ask each person in HETMA to spread the word in your local area, that would reach a lot more people.
I know, Kamisha, you mentioned earlier that you have been informally having like a mentoring relationship with a coworker or a supervisor. Are they a part of HETMA? Is that something that you?
I don't think so. I'll double check, but I don't think so. When I did receive the Prism scholarship, it was blasted, around the whole employees, and they started doing their digging themselves because they didn't know anything about it as well either. So with that being said, I think, they're, how guys are. I don't know. I want to be in that. So it's, it's just, I don't know if they're one, if it's something that they want to do, but it's just a reason of asking them, but I don't know. But yeah, they were looking when I got it. So
you'd be surprised, like, for what sometimes I have to do with our athletes, and we're NCAA Division II. Sometimes, I am helping out with other platforms and networking games that are streaming, and I've been promoting through contact with that very small schools that might be very isolated, and they just haven't even thought to look for something like that. So it just HETMA itself. At least getting their feet in the door, going, hey, they're like, oh, this thing exists. It's like, absolutely, the whole platform exists. And it was like, for me, Annie introduced me to this in a trust class at Infocom, because I openly said, hey folks, I'm from a small college and we're doing more and more of this stuff. And it was like, she hit me up afterward, and it's kind of, I've been it ever since. And I'm like, I want my HETMA tag in Infocom this year. So that was word of mouth that way. And I've kind of been trying to do the same thing if I'm hitting the right person that would be interested. Amazing enough in sports, because of how many hats in small schools everybody wears, even what I do. So
And Ryan had a good comment in the chat about working with our industry partners. Everybody has vendors that they're working with on a day-to-day basis and saying, hey, have you heard about HETMA? Have you heard about the Prism Scholarship? Can you help share the word with the other universities that you're the representative of? I think that's a great opportunity, but they already have contacts at a lot of the colleges, and so they have the mailing list that we're trying to build. And so let's take advantage of that if they're rolling. Kamisha, you mentioned using the Avixa Women's CTS study group. I'm curious if there's other avenues for like helping with the content and learning the content and resources for studying and preparing for the test that any of the other recipients are using.
I've also been doing the Avixa Women's Group study group with Kamisha, and we purposely paired together. Like she said, we meet an hour before that official study group to do our own study session, and then we move into the study group together. So it's nice because every other week we have a dedicated 2 hours back to back of we're focusing on this. And I know you had asked before, how do you find the time? So sometimes I read a funny little self-help book, right? And so one of the books I had read said that if you have a goal, you should dedicate at least 5 hours a week to that goal. So like Kamisha said, I find the time in my week, like it's not the same every single week, but I do dedicate at least 5 hours a week to getting this done. And it's like every other week I get 2 hours back to back, Kamisha and me, and then the Avixa study group.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's an amazing amount of time to dedicate on a regular basis to something. And I just applaud all of your efforts for putting in that much energy. I know you're all busy, and your full-time jobs are definitely taking up a lot of your attention, but to make room for that additional task is just huge. And I look up to you all for that. So one other question I have for everybody is, what do you think that the CTS and the Prism Scholarship will do for you? What are you hoping to get out of it?
Legitimacy, in one word.
Yeah.
Having that CTS behind your name means that people don't talk down to you quite as much. Even if you know everything, it's something that's a piece of paper that says, hey, I've been trained officially.
Yeah, I said for
Yeah.
me, I think a different seat at the table. I have a different seat at the table as far as, you know, if a project is underway, they won't usually bring me in because I don't have that CTS. But if I have that CTS, okay, now Kamisha has that CTS, let's bring her to the table and let's get these designs or things like that in order. So I think for me, it's just having a different seat at the table, you know, having more say, having, you know, a voice, you know, per se. So I think that's, and I know for a fact that we're gonna pass the CTS at Infocom. I'm super excited, like it's gonna happen.
I think when you have that tag on your email line, when you're trying to produce an RMA, and somebody asked, well, can I talk to your technician? And I'm like, what? It's like, wait a minute. My hands were in that. I know what I'm asking for. No, you don't need to speak to anybody but me, and still get that a lot. Surprisingly.
Potential career advancement.
Yeah, I pretty much co-sign everything. And for me, it's a lot of like self fulfillment. Like I will finally feel more confident just for myself, like regardless of how other people see me. I've been trying to actively teach myself the very hard lesson that what other people think of me is none of my business. So it's not really about how other people are perceiving me. For me, it's about how I'm perceiving myself. I feel like if I finally give myself the power of like, I took this test, I got this cert, like I'll just feel good for me.
I'm curious. I know if I was putting so much time into studying for this and then taking the test, is anybody preparing for failure? Or it's not an option?
No, it's an option. Always. It could happen. It could, we all might get in our, well, for me, I know where my pitfalls are in test taking. I essentially what I was going to actually do was try to take it in January, just because I said even before HETMA, I was trying to fringe study for it and knowing that there is the benchmark. You got to get an 80, got to get a whatever, got to get this, and how I don't do well in testing. I could probably write a 20-page essay and put all the same information in as please grade this instead of a multiple choice, and probably do a lot better. So yeah, it's going to be Tuesday. Is there a happy hour sponsored by someone post Tuesday to drown my tears while still trying to smile through a sales pitch. So
Tuesday's a good day, but I would say my recommendation to you all is just, be as positive to yourself. Like Britt was saying that, you got this, you've worked hard, go into it with that I've got this attitude. And I'll be there. I wasn't certain if I was. I'm going to make an effort to absolutely be there because I want to cheer you all on and buy the first round for this group here. No matter what happens, but things happen and tomorrow's another day. And that would be my recommendation to you all, is just look at it with that attitude that tomorrow's another day, and that worst case, and it is just that worst case, because I think the best case is you all have prepared and you all are doing some very hard work, because the amount of hours that I'm hearing about is fantastic. Probably more than well above average of other people that I've known that have studied for this test, that weren't necessarily from within inside the AV, they weren't necessarily growing up in it. So they were trying to get it to be affiliated where you all actually work in this and do this stuff. So I think your core knowledge is strong, and I think you'll do great. And I look forward to that opportunity to, as Will said here, there's always a happy hour. I love that. Yeah, there's multiple happy hours some days. So
yeah.
I have a question. Do they give you your results right then and after you take it? Because my anxiety is going to be really bad if it's not like right after.
Right. So,
like I need to know.
Depending on the computer, if it's the same computer system, and I'm assuming they probably haven't changed that very much. Yes, you do get your results, but there's an untimely, they make you do a damn survey. And then there's like a small lag in just the processing time. It's painful. I'm going to tell you, just so you're prepared, it's a little bit painful of a lag between clicking that last submit. Are you sure? Yes. Okay, now take a survey. How did you enjoy this? Blah, blah, blah. While you're sitting there wondering how you did the whole time you're taking a silly survey, which I wish they would be. It should be immediate. Then you take the survey, which I'm sure they do it that way. They want
Yeah,
your
that
experience
builds
without the group.
momentum.
So, but yeah, it's a survey, then you get the results, unless they change that, which I kind of doubt it. But yeah, you before you leave the room, you definitely know, and I believe they even allow you to print it off. There's a printer in the room usually, so you can take it with you, be proud of that and whatever. Oh yeah, and Steve makes a great comment too about the
yes.
CTS wall. So for those that aren't, if you've not seen this before, at CTS or at Infocom rather, at the near the Avixa booth itself, and it's usually off the off the show floor. There's a big CTS wall that has everyone's name that's ever passed the test, which is pretty cool. And then there's another list of CTSDs and another list of CTSIs. And then they have these big discs where you can, I did it, or I forget exactly how it's worded, and you can like get a selfie with the thing and pop that bad boy or bad girl on your LinkedIn page or wherever you choose to share that with the world, that your success.
Awesome.
And hopefully, Annie, we'll have to make sure somebody has a decent camera along as well, because I think it would be kind of cool to get a group photo for all y'all. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
the inaugural class. So yeah, that would be cool.
So go ahead, Natalie.
Let's hope everybody can make it to Infocom this year.
I'm already off. I'm like,
Facts.
yeah,
Me too.
it's like I'm off.
The whole week.
Yeah, the whole week.
Going back to your question with the failure, I see that failure as a good thing, because it'll give me an insight of what the test is actually asking and what am I missing? What are those questions that I'd be like, So if I don't pass it, and I'm not putting that to the universe because I will, but it's just the simple fact of saying, okay, I know what to expect now. I know what questions that they're asking me. I know, what I needed to study more on. And question two, the ones that are taking it, do they give you a portion where you're missing points, or do they say, probably like networking, like I said, my downfall is you miss this amount of points or this like that? Like, how is the scaling when you do not pass the test? What does that look like?
So it to my recollection, and forgive me, it's been just a couple of days since I did my original CTS, but it only gives you the score. It does not break down in what area particular that you may not have done, say project management, because that's fresh in my mind, or whatever, design or customer relations or whatever. The one thing I would suggest is that when you're going through each of the chapter practice tests and then the online test, if you can get yourself to a very comfortable 80+% there, I mean, comfortable, like you can roll through that time, both in time constraint as well as quality, questions answered, you will do fine. The practice tests are literally meant to mimic the exam itself. The exam itself is, the questions are not harder. They are on the same level of difficulty, I guess, if you will, or of knowledge requirement to answer them correctly. So if you can be comfortable in your, in your thoughts that I did that and I did well, man, look at that, I got a 90 or whatever, you will do fine. A little margin of error, maybe go shoot for an 82, 83, as Ann mentioned, the day of stress is always, it's a real thing, even, for when I was going for D and I, even having sat for others, it's real. It's understandable. That, what do they call it for doctors? The white coat syndrome, same kind of thing. It's but the more comfortable you are in the work you all are putting into it, it sounds is phenomenal. I applaud that as well. Again, I don't know that I actually put that level, gosh, that's awesome. Awesome to see. And I'm confident, very confident for you all.
Yeah, I feel pretty confident that you guys know the content. And if anybody fails, it's going to be because of the strangely worded question that does make you go down that rabbit hole, or maybe, I mean, I know that recognize if you have a disability, they recognize disabilities, and I think they honor accommodations too for the test taking. So if anybody wants to pursue that, I think that's available.
I'll also add too, for the good of the group, and if there's anyone on the call who like hasn't taken the CTS, I think it's important to know exactly what your goal is and to have that be a goal you feel good about. So for me going into this, the goal is actually just to take the test, like not to pass it, but just to take it.
Take it.
And so as soon as I sit down in that chair, I've done it. So
Mhm. Yeah, to be in the room.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I remember I was there during one of the it was the testing days. I walked past the hallway and they said, quiet, please, testing in progress. And you literally, it's just so strange, but it's like, I'll get there, you will get there, just to be in that room, what it means to have that. And so, yeah, only 2 years, my first InfoComm. So couldn't go last year.
Are there any other comments before we end? It looks like we're at our time.
My only thought would be, or my suggestion or comment would be, congratulations, first of all, for getting as far along those processes you all have. I wish you well and look forward to, again, toasting on, I don't have the date. Oh, goodness gracious, in June, whatever
June.
date it is, that Tuesday night. So by golly, we'll hit a happy hour or two.
And we did get confirmation that we do have a study room available. Vix is giving us the study room. So thank you all. And you're going to do great, I'm sure.
thank
Thank
you.
you.